Here we go with the chart.
Yes.
Pop pickers. Box office top 10. First of all, that numero ahoy la plume de ma tante is The End.
Go on.
Eskil, I hope I've got this right. Eskil Wendell says,
Okay.
Mark and Simon, had the pleasure of seeing The End at Cosmorama, the International Film Festival in Trondheim,
Right.
and to have a small chat with the director afterwards. He was very polite, even though he seemed very sleepy. The film for me was visually stunning, with very expressive and symbolically loaded sets, which superseded any attempts at logistical explanation. This glamour fits the story very well thematically, and it complements the great performances. I already liked Michael Shannon and Tilda Swinton quite well from before, and I think they're both very good at playing people who are fraying quite seriously at the seams. I think that's probably true. I asked Joshua Oppenheimer how he directed your pal George Mackay, who needs to play someone trying to be mega normal despite having lived his whole life in very abnormal circumstances, and whether it was deliberate that he should act like a real-world victim of abuse. Of course it was. He was constantly monitoring and correcting his own behavior to other people's.
Yes.
Joshua Oppenheimer talked quite eloquently of his own childhood experiences with improperly trying to manage his own emotions and the toll it took. He also told us about how he and George Mackay worked together to find the emotional core of the character and to ground him in real life. Maybe you focused on it in your interview, but I haven't heard it yet. We did talk about that, indeed, Eskil. I wasn't completely grabbed by the movie, but it was very ambitious, for which it should be lauded. There's more correspondence about this in Take Two. However, that's The End, not in the chart, but there it is.
I mean, look, I really like The End because of its ambition and because it's so unlike anything else that you're going to see this year. As we were saying after your interview with George Mackay, if you haven't listened to that interview, do go back to the previous podcast and listen to it, because it's a great interview. You ask him great questions and he, being George, gives great answers. But I was just so impressed by the level of ambition, the level of out there. Now, it clearly doesn't work for everyone. And you used a phrase which was, you said you thought it was going to struggle, meaning, it's not going to pack out multiplexes. Of course it isn't.
Yeah, that is what I meant, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But I am a really big fan of it, for the things that work, for the things that don't work. And I have a suspicion that the more one watches it, the more one will see in it. One thing I would like to say, I've read a couple of reviews that have said the music is monotonous. It isn't. I don't know what that's about. The music is not monotonous. The music is arch. And actually, were I still doing the Scala show, I would be playing songs from it on the Scala show.
Sikandar 2 is at number 10.
Yeah, so one of two movies in the top 10 this week that weren't press screened. This is Indian Punjabi language action thriller. There is another one, this kind of 3, which is in the works at the moment.
The woman. So if you've seen it, please let us know for next week's podcast. Correspondence at kermodeandmayo.com. The Woman in the Yard is a new entry at number 9.
So if you remember, last week's Take Two was delayed because The Woman in the Yard had an embargo on it, which was midnight.
Yes,
I mean, it was as close to the day of release as it was possible to get. And what I said when I reviewed it was, well, there are some interesting ideas in there. And Danielle Deadwyler is very good. And I think Jama Koyetsera is an interesting director. But the fact of the matter is, it's full of atmosphere, but it's also boring. And I think the fact that it hasn't taken the box office by storm. Bear in mind, this is a Blumhouse horror production, the kind of which are now considered to be regularly, reliably saleable. This is evidently why it was that they didn't want any press about it.
Number 8 is L2 Empuran, also a new entry.
So this is the second part of the Lucifer series. Again, this was the second one that wasn't press screened. This is apparently the first Malayalam film to be released in IMAX and Epic. I have to say I haven't come across Epic before, but it is Malayalam language political thriller and presents a fictional storyline centered around the 2002 Gujarat riots. If you've seen it, please let us know.
Flow is a new entry at number 7.
Both you and I are fans of this, and I think it's easy to see why it has done so well around the world, because it does speak the universal language of film. It's non-verbal. It just tells its story through images and sound without using language.
Yeah, it is a fantastic film. It's an email from a guy called Paul. Dear Ketchup and Mayo, heritage but lapsed, recently returned to the church, listener, first-time emailer. I wanted to write in after the recent discussion of flow, particularly how beautiful and striking you both found the animation style. I wanted to highlight a fact about the movie, that the 3D software used to animate the movie is a software package called Blender. Why should you care about this? Well, Blender is entirely free and open source software, and this is the first Oscar-winning film to have been primarily animated with free software.
Okay.
What that means is that instead of being an expensive piece of paid, often subscription-based software like Photoshop, Blender is completely free. Anyone with a half-decent laptop can download it. Not only that, but open source refers to the fact that all of the development and code is done entirely in public and in collaboration with the community, with major features often added simply by fans of the project who want to see something added. It is entirely funded by donations from users and technology companies who use the software. We live in a world in which we're increasingly becoming aware how the modern tech business and the capitalist forces behind it are damaging the world, whether that's harms of social media seen in adolescence or enormous data centers for AI. Nobody asked for burning the planet. As an electronics engineer who increasingly feels disillusioned with everything technological, it's a reminder that it doesn't have to be that way. We can create technology in a way that is fair and equitable, driven by people, and used to add something meaningful to the world. Anyway, I thought that work was worth highlighting. Thanks for all the fish. That's Paul. Well, that is also nice Douglas Adams reference at the end.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
And also thank you for highlighting that, because I did not know that this software was free and open sourced.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
I think I should watch Flow again and then download the software and make a complete pig's ear of animating something myself.
Yes, because just because the tools are free doesn't mean the talent is.
Correct. Number 6 is Mickey 17.
Which I enjoyed very much. I mean, when it first came out, I said I thought it would struggle to find an audience. It had a couple of weeks at the top of the charts. It's now sort of on the way out, but it's done pretty solidly, and I'm very pleased, because I think I'm a fan of Bong Joon-ho anyway, and I think hats off to Robert Pattinson for delivering not one but two, and actually arguably three great performances in the film.
Black Bag is at number 5.
You know, it's a chamber play that happens to be an international spy thriller that works on the fact that it doesn't make any sense, but as an exercise in twisty genre stuff, it works quite well, and I did enjoy it.
Novocaine is at number 4.
Which is someone called. Can we said about Novocaine? Yes, carry on.
All right, okay. Panic Lord on YouTube. Hello, yes. Panic Lord. Just got back from watching it and had a blast. The whole cinema was laughing along. Nice to watch a film that's fun and doesn't take itself too seriously. That's what Panic Lord tells us.
I mean, I think the thing with Novocaine, I mean, it's fine. I can imagine seeing it in a packed cinema and doing okay. I mean, although it's it's not a whopping great opening, but as I was saying when I was reviewing it, if you compare the scenario to the scenario of Kick-Ass, it is surprisingly similar. And actually, that scenario has turned up elsewhere as well, as some people have pointed out. And I think if you remember how much fun Kick-Ass was, this sort of falls. I mean, it should be funnier than it is. I'm not saying it's a bad film. It's just it should be much funnier than it actually is.
Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boys at number 3.
7th week in the UK box office. And let's just remind ourselves that in America, it went straight to streaming, because over there, they thought there's no market for that.
A Working Man is a new entry at number 2.
Jason in his professional capacity, working on a building site, but he also turns out to be an ex-Royal Marine. And when his boss's daughter goes missing, he just has to kill everyone until finally he gets her back. It's that film.
Okay. RPM Belfast, also on our YouTube channel. This film could have been brilliant pizza and beers entertainment, but it was a mismanaged mess. The construction angle could have been cool, but it was completely underutilized. Where were the cheesy puns and jokes for tradies to appreciate? They gave us one job site shakedown, and he went from working man to fighting man in the first 5 minutes. The movie is devoid of humor and disappointingly hard. Locations were great, lighting was stylized and John Wick influenced, infinite extras. Too many quirky hench cooks spoil the broth. Hey. But the bigger action set pieces felt cheap, quick cut and no framing of the space in which the fight took place, unlike a John Wick movie where we can see exactly what's going on. And the dialogue and acting were porno-esque and reek of Stallone at his most wooden. Think Escape Plan rather than Rocky. This could have been more fun than The Beekeeper, but it wasn't.
Yes, I agree with that. And the fun element is important. So if just to refer back to, we were just reviewing Restless, okay? And you said, well, it sounds like recommendation. I said, yeah, I found the first half very, very stressful. And then when it got into the kind of revenge drama thing, I just went with it. The poster for Restless has the tagline, "Loathe thy neighbor." Okay. And in a way, that sort of tells you that the film has, I said it, it's got comedy in its listing. It's not really comedy, but it has a comedic element. The problem I went a bit marching powder there. The problem with the Working Man is that it isn't funny at all. It doesn't have any humor in it, and all the best Statham stuff does. And that's the issue here. It's like if you look at all the best Statham movies, I think The Beekeeper, actually, this is partly true, there is an element of fun, but Working Man is just completely straight-faced and serious, and that's why it's not great.
Number one in the UK and number one in America, Disney's Snow White. So let me bring you three contrasting opinions.
Okay.
Peter Oxleon.
Yes.
A nice 4K cleanup of the original would have been widely welcomed, not this woke disaster. Kenny Boy 66 says, the simple fact for the majority is that we go to Disney films for easy, fun, charming movies. We don't go to be schooled in socialist fantasies, which I would say, Kenny, thank you very much for getting in touch. Maybe study what socialism is before you think that Snow White is anything to do with it. This from Liz. This genre or this film will not be for everyone. However, I do not think it deserves anything close to the vitriol that it has received or the 1.5 rating on IMDb. Can I
just say, before you go any further, do not take anything from IMDb ratings, okay? They don't mean anything. Move on.
I try in all walks of life not to. This is an email that will is life affirming. Okay. I try in all walks of life not to judge based on other opinions of something, and teach to my 8-year-old son the same. He had initially not wanted to see it, having heard negative gossip and just parroting it to me. And in wanting to teach a lesson in the dangers of prejudgment, I took him along to see it, warning him that we may not like it, but at least we can judge the film on its merits and our opinions rather than what strangers on the internet think. Although it wasn't the best I've ever seen, I'm glad I gave it a chance, as it was so much better than had been reported. It was served up with a big slice of cheese, but the songs were fun, and I enjoyed watching Gal Gadot playing to the cheap seats at the back, really embracing the camp of a Disney villain. The updating of the central character was needed, not out of place, much like the changes made to the live-action Aladdin, but the basic beats were all still there, and the central theme of beauty not only being skin deep, and the power and importance of kindness and tolerance is as true today as it ever was, and a message I want my son to see. Halfway through, he whispered to me how much he was enjoying the film, which I took as a small win for going against all the noise, misinformation, and politicized rhetoric spread about a film that simply wants people to be kind to each other. As the end credits rolled, a large percentage of the audience in my showing applauded, making me think I'm not the only one to think this. Wishing you the very best. That's from Liz. So
great.
My guess is that, so clearly Liz and 8-year-old have been to see it.
Had a good time.
And Peter and Kenny Boy probably haven't. But I do think that's interesting, and I wonder if the applause at Liz's screening is partly based on that fact that it's sort of a backlash. That the people applauding didn't think it was the most amazing film they'd ever seen, but they were pleased that they had gone to see it because there was stuff in there that they liked.
Yes,
basically.
Well, I think that's absolutely not impossible. I think that the whole anti-woke thing about, we've talked about this before, and in a way even saying the words, as I said before, if you are the kind of person that uses woke as a derogatory term in any circumstances whatsoever, find another podcast, go do something else, because you just really no. I mean, I think there are loads of problems with that film, and I have an issue with the whole idea of Disney going back through their back catalogue and doing the, in inverted commas, live action stuff. And I think there are very big problems with Snow White. But as we said at the time, I could also imagine that you could go along and see it with kids, and kids would like it enough, and that'd be fine. If people are bursting in spontaneous applause, that does sound to me like people responding to all the absolute nonsense, the shrieking, reactionary, gibbering lunacy of people who at the time that they wrote all these things absolutely hadn't seen the film because it wasn't released. So yeah, and of course it's continued to wash its face financially, because it is a very, very recognizable IP, and Rachel Zegler is very good in it.
Yeah, and Easter holidays are upon us, so it'll probably stay at number one.
Yeah,
for a while.
Fine. It'll do fine. I mean, I wish it was a much better movie than it is, but I can imagine we've all seen this, just kind of this lunatic reactionary claptrap of people just screaming at the movie. And just yesterday, somebody sent me something on social media screaming at me for not, and I just I love the block function. That's just great.
Yes.
But I mean,
But to take against it, and I suspect Kenny Boy hasn't seen it because he doesn't want to be schooled in, quotes, socialist fantasies.
Yeah.
Just means that we put that kind of, go, okay, I mean, I'm reading it out because,
yes,
it was sent in, but I'm afraid it does reveal that you don't understand what the film is doing, or what socialist fantasies might actually be.
Incidentally, the socialist fantasy that is embodied by the story of the new Snow White is that after a period in which an evil overlord has forced the population into poverty and squalor, that Snow White and Robin Hood turn up and go, "We don't want to do this anymore." So if that's what you think is a socialist fantasy, then okay, fine. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, because that is showing people not wanting to live in.
Yeah. I have to be honest, having taken on board everything that you said about the failings of the film, and you did outline precisely why, in your opinion, it fails as a film.
Yeah.
The longer it stays at number one, the better.
I know,
because it's going to annoy so many people, don't you think?
I do.
So more power to it.
I do. Yeah. Oy.